जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्तविंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Welcome back. We are continuing our discussion with the introduction of Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is. And in the last session, we were talking about the 5 subject matters or 5 essential truths which are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavad Gita by Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan in his Gita Bhushan commentary. So we discussed that these are the 5 topics and one has to understand these 5 topics, and after understanding the 5 topics, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Karma and Kala, and how they work together, then we will have a complete understanding of the message of Bhagavad Gita. Till then, there will be some disconnect. So in Bhagavad Gita it is clearly explained that Lord Sri Krishna is the Ishvara or Parameshwara, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we also thought that the material nature doesn't work independently of Krishna. It is working under Krishna's direction. So today we'll continue with the discussion of difference between Ishvara and Jivas. So Prabhupada says in the purport, in the introduction, that now the Jivas or the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we'll note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcel. So the living entity or us, we are actually part of Krishna. It's like the example can be given, a machinery has multiple different parts. So the machinery is a complete with the different parts working together, right? So similarly, we are one of the parts of the Supreme. So that's why we are his parts and parcel. So here Prabhupada gives the example. A particle of gold also is a gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we are the living entities being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller Ishvara or Bhagwan. Lord Sri Krishna have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quantity, because we are minute Ishwaras or subordinate Ishwaras. So this is a point we discussed last time, that as in the ocean water, you compare the ocean water with a drop of ocean water, qualitatively it will be same, but the quantity wise it is different, right? And there can be no comparison, but the qualitatively is same. So Krishna is Satchidananda. So similarly, we are also Satchidananda, being his part and parcel. And we are also, he is a Parameshwara and we are also subordinate Ishvara. We also control things to a certain extent. We are trying to control nature, as presently we are trying to control space or planets, and this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. So Krishna has this nature of controlling. So similarly, we also have this nature of controlling. But our control or domain of our control is very minute, very small compared to Krishna. But although we have tendency to lord it over the material nature, lord over the material nature means controlling tendencies or potencies. We want to become the master. So that is the meaning of lording, or tendency to lord. So, but although we have tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. So generally, as we become more and more powerful, we try to think that we are, initially we think ourselves as a controller, then we think ourselves, we are a big boss, and then we are super boss, and then you are the supreme controller. So we get a feeling that I am the God himself. So one must know that they are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, that we are not supreme controller. Supreme controller is the supreme Lord. Next topic discussed by Prabhupada is what is material nature. But before going into that, there's a nice picture drawn by an artist. So here we see a jiva. So this is one bird, and this is the second bird. The first bird is the painting of a jiva, and this bird, if you see, is eating a fruit, right? So it is eating a fruit or trying to enjoy. And then once that fruit has been eaten, and if it is not satisfied, it will go to the other branch and eat another fruit. And next to this bird, which is jiva, is the Ishvara. So Ishvara is in the heart of every living entity. So over here, that's why there are two pictures. One is the living entity in the left side, and on the right side is Krishna. So the meaning of this picture is, with every jiva, so the jiva is in the body, and with every jiva, the next to the the jiva, or to the soul, is the God in the form of Paramatma, or in the form of Ishvara. He is sitting next to it. And when the jiva goes from one branch to another branch to eat another fruit, it indicates that a jiva is moving from one body to another body. And when the jiva goes to the next body, the Paramatma also goes, the same Paramatma which was there with jiva also goes to the next body. So this way, the bird keeps on going to different branches of the tree, trying to enjoy different fruits. And the Paramatma also accompanies the jiva, basically meaning that the Paramatma is going with the jiva to the next body. So this is a nice way of understanding that how the Lord actually is with us all the time, whether we are in the material world or whether we are in the spiritual world. Continuing the discussion, what is material nature? This is also explained in Gita as inferior Prakriti. Prakriti means material nature. So in Bhagavad Gita, the Prakriti is defined as inferior in nature, and the Jiva is defined as superior in nature. So this is inferior nature. And there is a reason given why this inferior and superior is there. The living entity is explained as a superior Prakriti. Prakriti is always under the control, whether inferior or superior. So let's understand this, that Krishna has control over the inferior Prakriti, which is the material nature, and it has control over the superior Prakriti, which is the Jiva, the living entity, or us. So he has control over both. Prakriti, normally our definition of male and female is different than which is given in Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, Prakriti, or living entity, and the material nature is both considered as female. Or Prakriti means, actually, the purpose of Prakriti is enjoyment. So enjoyer is male, enjoyment is female. So Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. So that is generally the norm, that in the home, you see, a husband is the controller and the wife is being controlled. Now this is not currently, that is not the situation, but the point is that one is the enjoyer, other is the enjoyment. So similarly, Bhagavad Gita defines the living entities and the material nature as Prakriti. One is superior Prakriti, another is inferior Prakriti. And he is the Ishvara. So Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator, right? Enjoyer or predominator, and the Prakriti is predominated. The living entity and the material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Lord, or the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered as Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Apareyam Itastvam anyam prakriti vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho. So this is what this verse is, 7th chapter. This material nature is my inferior prakriti, but beyond this, another prakriti is jiva bhutam, the living entity which is superior. So this is 7th chapter, 5th verse. Krishna describes this. Okay. Now the next topic is the modes of material nature. The modes of material nature. This is a speciality which is only there in the Vedic scriptures. In none of the other scriptures of the world, this thing is described. What is we are going to cover next, which is the modes of material nature. Also, in none of the scriptures of the world, like if you take the Quran or the Bible or anywhere, nowhere, God comes and says that I am the Supreme Lord. Like Jesus says that or claims that he is the Son of God. And in Quran it is said that Allah is supreme, the God is supreme. So both these statements are true. But nowhere somebody has come and say, in fact in Vedic scriptures also, nowhere else or nobody else other than Krishna has claimed that I am the Supreme Lord and you worship me. So this is a speciality of Bhagavad Gita. And we are lucky, extremely lucky actually, to read this Bhagavad Gita. So modes of material nature. So this is a concept which is only found in the Vedic literature. And this modes is so important that Krishna actually describes about this mode. Initial description of the mode is given in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But Krishna, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he dedicates couple of chapters on this very subject of the modes of material nature. He has discussed modes of material nature in details. So what is this modes? So material nature itself is constituted by 3 qualities. So 3 gunas. You must have heard the word guna. So guna means actually the modes. And there are 3 gunas. So Krishna actually tells Arjuna that Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. This is in the 2nd chapter. He's saying that the subject matter of Vedas consists of these 3 modes. That means the subject matter of Vedas is dealing with the material nature and it's describing or it is dealing with the 3 modes of nature. And then Krishna is telling Arjuna, Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna, means you rise above these 3 modes. So earlier we used this term transcendental, right? I have used this term many times and I was actually hesitating to use this term when in the previous sessions. But transcendental means you are transcending something, means you are going beyond something. So what is transcendental means? Transcendental, or what are you trying to transcend? So you are transcending these 3 modes. So that is the meaning of transcendental. So one who is beyond the 3 modes is transcendental. So in the Sanskrit term of transcending is called as somebody who has transcended these 3 modes is called as gunatita. Gunatita means he is beyond the 3 modes. So material nature is constituted by the 3 modes, 3 qualities: the modes of goodness, the modes of passion, and mode of ignorance. So here we have a nice picture which shows that that the living entity or us over here, we are controlled by the Prakriti, the 3 modes. So here the mode of goodness is represented by this color, yellow. So mode of goodness, mode of passion is the red color, and the mode of ignorance is the dark black or bluish dark color. So this indicates 3 modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Now this is all under control of Krishna. So Krishna is above them. But all the living entities are actually controlled by these 3 modes. Now you see a string, like puppeteer actually controls the puppet show. When it happens, puppets appears to the audience like they're dancing and all, but there is a puppeteer behind the scene who is controlling everything. So similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, how the living entities are actually controlled by these three modes: their actions, their food, the way they live, the way they speak. In fact, everything in this world we see is controlled by the three modes of nature. Now, we don't see this unless we study Bhagavad Gita. We won't be able to understand it actually, that these three modes are actually controlling us. It's very difficult. And when we see how the characteristics of the mode of goodness, and then how a person in the mode of goodness will behave, it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Then when we really experience a person, then we can see, oh, now this person is in the mode of goodness, or in the mode of passion or ignorance. So just by seeing their external symptoms, we can see in what mode they are acting. So Bhagavad Gita reveals this in details actually, how the modes actually acts on the living entities. And when we study this mode in detail, that's why Krishna spent a lot of time with Arjuna discussing this very point of the three modes of material nature. Of course, it's not discussed in the introduction much, but as we go through Bhagavad Gita, we'll understand how this mode acts, and then we can also recognize it's not just for the purpose of understanding these modes and seeing people. Okay, this person is in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. It's for us actually. It's not for judging people. It's to identify in what mode we are. And the goal is then what? The goal is that we have to transcend these modes. Only when we transcend these modes, then we can become pure. So when we say pure consciousness, means somebody who has transcended the modes. When we use the word conditioned or contaminated consciousness, then means that the person is within the clutches of the mode. So who is doing all this control? Who is controlling all these things? So then there are devatas who are responsible for or in charge of controlling the living entities in this way. So as we study Bhagavad Gita more, we'll understand how these things work. Next is time and karma. So above these modes, there is eternal time. Now this is another new concept which is there in Bhagavad Gita. Kala. Kala means time. So above this mode is the time factor. Now time is used for certain purpose. Actually everything is kala. The things are happening because of the kala. And beyond that is eternal time. Now this is beyond our concept of understanding. Eternality is a subject which is discussed in Bhagavad Gita in many points, like the soul is eternal, time is eternal, Prakriti is eternal, Krishna is eternal. Now we always have experience of something with beginning and end, but Bhagavad Gita gives us a picture beyond our realm of understanding, that there is something which is always there. And it is in the beginning, it is very difficult. In fact, it's later on also it is very difficult to understand these concepts or experience this concept. But it is there in some of the concepts. You have to accept as it is, though it is not currently under our experience. So the time and karma, they work together. So above the mode is the eternal time, and that is kala. And by the combination of these modes of nature under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called as karma. So karma means action. Technically karma means action, but Chaitanya Charan Prabhu explains that karma has 4 different meanings, and depending on the context in which it is used. But over here, let's understand that karma is action as of now. And this action happens under the by the combination of the modes of nature under the control of the eternal time. And when somebody manifests that action, that is called as karma. So for example, some bad action we might have done, and for that bad action or for the good action, we want to reap the reaction of that action. Then the time has to happen, and when the time occurs, then the reaction is manifested. So this is how they actually karma is manifested in terms of the reaction of our action. Or when we perform an action, it has to happen at certain time. So unless the time is there, that particular karma is not manifested. So let's understand as of this point of time, let's understand karma is just an action. Now Prabhupada continues that these activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our action. So there is an action and there is a reaction. So every action has its reaction. So it's like a Newton's law, third law. Every action has its equal and opposite reaction. So when we perform an action, along with that action comes a reaction. It's like a coin. Coin has two sides. So when we accept that coin, we accept actually both the sides. So similarly, every action has a reaction, right? And then Prabhupada gives that if we do a good action, then we get the benefit of that good action by getting a good reaction. And then if we do a bad action, then we get a bad reaction. So in both the cases, the reactions are there. Good action has good reaction, bad action has bad reaction, right? But for both, we have to have our body, or have some kind of body. So Prabhupada gives an example. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and I have worked very hard with intelligence and I have amassed great bank balance. Then I am the enjoyer. But then say I have lost all my money in the business, then I am the sufferer. So nice example Prabhupada has put here, that when we earn money, then what was the purpose of earning money? Was to enjoy. And when we spend all the money and then we don't have anything in the bank balance, then it's that the same money becomes the reason for our suffering. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work or we suffer the result. This is called as karma. So this picture depicts karma. When we exchange things with the people in this world or in other worlds, and then we get that action has a reaction, and that is basically the cycle of karma. Basically cycle of action and reaction. Next topic is the 5 aspects of Bhagavad Gita: the Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, the Jiva, the living entity, the Prakriti, the nature, Kala, eternal time, and karma, activity, are all explained in Bhagavad Gita. Out of these 5, the Lord, the living entity, the material nature, and the time are eternal. So in this diagram you see that Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, these 4 things are eternal. Karma, on the other side, is not eternal. Meaning, karma can change. Karma can actually change. So these are the 4 things that is eternal, is constant, it's there all the time. Karma will, based on the action and reaction, it may change, or people can change their karma, or Krishna can delete your karma actually. Karma, this is Krishna's power. He can delete the karma based on what we want from him actually. In the last verse, 18th chapter, which is Ramanujacharya 18 chapter 66 verse, Ramanujacharya explains that as a Charan sloka. So in the Charan sloka, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vaja. Right? You whatever dharma Krishna has explained earlier, he says sarva dharman parityaja, give it up. Then what do? Maam ekam sharanam vajam. You just surrender unto me. When you surrender unto me, what will happen? Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. I will relieve you from all the sins you have done. And moksha shami, I will give you moksha. Ma sucha, do not fear. So this is the last instruction of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. He is asking or is requesting Arjuna to surrender into him. Now, normally when we hear the word surrender means, you're somebody saying they put gun on our head and says you surrender. So this surrender is not same as the surrender we think. If you see the cover of Bhagavad Gita, you will see Krishna's picture with Arjuna, and Krishna is the driver of Arjuna actually. He is a charioteer. So he is taking the role of driver. So this is a different kind of surrender Krishna is asking from Arjuna. And we must understand the purpose. So that the whole Bhagavad Gita, when we study, we understand that what kind of surrender Krishna wants from us. And when we surrender, then he can relieve us from all our past sin. Right? So that means all the sins we have done, he will be all nullified. So all the karma is actually taken away or nullified. And that's why Krishna can delete all our karma. He can erase all our karma. Right? That's why karma is not eternal. So continuing, the manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. So it is not false. Prakriti is temporary. There it is manifested for some times, and then it becomes unmanifested. And then some philosophers say that manifestation of the material nature is false. But according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnava, this is not so. This material nature is not false. We can see in front of us. Whatever we are seeing is there. But it can be said that it's sometimes there, it's sometimes not there. For example, when the spring season comes, we see all kind of different flowers and different kind of growths around us. But when the winter comes, those growths are not there, flowers are not there, So it is there sometimes, it's not there sometimes. So it is relative. It manifested and it is unmanifested. The manifestation of this world is not accepted as false. It is accepted as real but temporary. So this is what is going on in the material world. Things around us, sometimes appear, sometimes disappear. But it is not false. But some of the philosophers, they say it is false. So with this, tomorrow we'll continue with the examples, but with this we'll stop now. And in the next session, we'll continue discussing the same topic further. So with that, I am stopping it here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande Haribol.